Hello, my name is Catherine Otto. I am the Farmland Action Plan Coordinator for MDAR, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources. This short video is going to be looking at the Farmland Action Plan and looking at particularly at the Farmland Protection section of the plan, and talking about what does it say. So, an overview of the matrix. So the way the plan is written right now, we have an implementation matrix that takes everything that was written in the plan in terms of next steps and puts it into a spreadsheet, but also a PDF version so you can have a look at it. We've got those three goals: access, protection, and viability, and then one related to how those goals also play together equally. We've got 12 strategies plus one related to implementation. And then we get into the meat of it. We get to the actions. So what is it that we really want to be achieving? And then the tasks give us the roadmap. It says, okay, what next steps do we need to take? Sometimes those steps will be sequential. So you'll do this, then you'll do this, and then you'll do this. And sometimes those tasks can be done in parallel. So you can do three or more things at the same time. And when it comes to the tasks under inactions, sometimes we don't have very many right now, but in other cases we can have 19, 20 or more different tasks because doing that action takes a variety of different efforts. So, looking at more detail in the plan itself, as I mentioned, we have those three goals. We have protection, access, and viability. So, in the protection part, we're looking at accelerating the permanent protection and stewardship of farmland. And why is that important? We're losing farmland every day to a variety of different land uses. Unfortunately, though, when we lose those lands, it's really hard to bring them back into agriculture. We're not just losing it to development like housing or commercial, we're also losing it to other land uses. So to dive into more detail in the protection section, what you've got on the screen here are those 13 strategies. And under protection, we've got 4 strategies. Permanently protect farmland through purchases of agricultural restrictions. Further develop and implement additional tools to avoid farmland loss and retain farmland. Prioritize protection of whole farms. And formalize and integrate decision-making processes regarding farmland protection. So we're going to dive into a little bit more detail on those. So actions within the 4 strategies. What I'd recommend is if you want the exact language, please go to the implementation matrix. There's a spreadsheet version that's easily searchable and filterable. There's also a PDF version, like a normal document, that you can just scroll through and look for keywords. What I've done on the screen is using just a few words, I've summarized some of those key actions so that you have an idea of what falls in there. I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but I do recommend looking back at this slide when we got to the end. But the main thing to know is that there really is a wide variety of actions under each one of those strategies. So now we're going to dive into more detail. So at the end of 2024, we developed our progress report that dived into some details on some of the things we've actually been getting started or have already been completed. And I think that's a really good way to dive into the plan. The plan is so big. We're talking about 350 plus tasks, which is overwhelming to me, let alone to everyone else. But let's dive into those details on highlights. So on the screen in yellow are 4 highlights specifically related to protection. We've been making some advances on leveraging federal funding, building capacity of entities to protect land, increasing applications to protection programs, and also prioritizing the protection of whole farms. What I do recommend is if you're interested, go to the website, the Farmland Action Plan webpage, and have a look at the progress report. It should be pretty easy for you to read. It's just a page for each one of these items and should give you a good idea of where we're heading. So just on a very high level related to farmland protection, I'm going to focus in on one specific action. So action 1A7 is about increasing the number of applications to the APR, ALE, and non-ALE protection programs. So some of the things that I wanted to highlight of what has been done in the last year, the APR program at MDAR now accepts applications at any time, and they're ranking those applications quarterly. It was previously done on an annual basis, so now kind of when you're ready, get things in. They also updated the APR score sheet that was released towards the end of 2024. And MDAR is also now an ASAP AL entity, which means they can close faster on farms. So it's faster from when you express interest to when you might be closing. And also in the last month or two, we also released private APR guidance. So private APRs are where the APR is held by an entity other than an MDAR, usually a municipality, land trust, or similar entity. Another advancement in this area, which is good to recognize, is that MDAR now has the authority to buy and sell land. Previously, they could only restrict land, they couldn't actually hold land themselves. And that gives us some extra opportunities on how we protect land and how we also access land for the future. So with that said, that's the end of a very quick overview for the protection section, and we'll go into the other two goals in the next two videos. What I do recommend, as I mentioned, the implementation metrics. It is a living document that lists all goals, strategies, actions, and tasks. It also tracks what partners have been doing and also what they plan to do. We'll have another brief that focuses on this. So learn more by visiting the matrix and the plan itself on the Farmland Action Plan website. Thank you.